But then after 2 years, it's COVID and the stock plummets. And it's apparent that it will never come up.
And what happens in that case?
It's really disincentivizing. Because then you know already too early, there's no point.
If you are being offered an incentive program, this could be your opportunity to get rich in life. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the incentive programs. And we have Kat here to explain everything for us. So if you're having a business or planning on doing an incentive program, we have the tips and tricks for you here. We're so happy to share that. So let's go. Kat, where do we start?
Starting with dividing them into two.
Two.
Yeah, we have the STIP and the LTIP.
Okay.
STIP is the short-term incentive programs, and LTIP is the long-term incentive programs. So let's start with STIP,
yes.
short-term.
Tell me more.
Typically, we're talking about 12 months or even less, and typically we're talking about cash, a bonus. That's typically a STIP. And often, the STIP is very tightly connected to your performance. When we talk about the LTIP, they will be tightly connected to the company's performance.
Okay.
But this one goes to certain metrics, which, and this is good for you to know, so that's why we're dropping them, KPIs, key performance indicators. So that can be that you sell a certain amount or some other type of performance, depending on what your line of work is. Typically can be in selling. If you reach your goals, then you will get 500,000 a year, and so forth. So what should you think about?
Yes, what is the risk about doing this?
Yeah, well, I mean, compared to a regular pay, it's more risk, but more upside typically. That's kind of the trade-off.
Yeah.
So I would say that it depends on you as a person if you like it or not.
Yes, you need to be driven by performance.
Yeah.
This is a good way then.
If you like it really safe and comfortable, then perhaps you do not have to seek a job where the salary is a bit lower, but the bonus is a bit higher. So really, what are your triggers? And also, one thing to be mindful of, and that's not really legal as much as insecurity, is that since it's individual, who will be the person best assessing you? Your boss. So what's your relationship to your boss? Do you have a good boss? Do you trust him? Will he be fair? Will he treat you fairly? Do you have a good communication? So those are also things to consider, because it's hard to kind of argue and prove your point end year when everybody has been given their bonus and the board of directors had taken a decision as a whole. Well, then it can be hard to get a better bonus. So better start of the year, discuss with your boss what's the KPIs, are they reasonable, how will you be measured, and also make sure you feel safe, that you will be fairly treated.
Yes. And if I am the business owner, what would you say is the best way to plan and to make an incentive program? How do you think in that case?
Good question. Well, I would say two things. One is that since it's a cash bonus, it requires liquidity. So if you're you have a restaurant or a little gym, make sure you do not promise in a way that will hurt your finances in the end. Perhaps you have to condition it by the company overall making a specific profit or a specific revenue. So that's one thing. Don't promise things that you cannot keep, number one. And number two, I would say transparency. Because often when I as a lawyer get a call from a manager, business owner, or somebody entitled to a bonus, it's about lack of communication. An expectation that has not been met. So I think good communication, perhaps you need quarterly measures where you stop and talk to each other and assess where somebody's at. And another recommendation for you as the one receiving the bonus. remember that typically in your contract, you will only be entitled to the bonus if you're still employed the day the bonus is paid out.
Oh.
So there are some stories from big consultancy firms where the bonus is paid out on the 1st of February. And on the 2nd of February, the line outside of HR is so long, everybody been waiting for half a year to quit their job. Because they would just been waiting out the bonus.
Wow.
So, and if it's that way, it's February and you're getting your bonus. But then already in December, you're offered another job. Are you willing to give up 500,000? Well, what you can do is you can say to your new employer that if I'll go with you, I'm going to leave all of this money on the table. So I want a sign-on bonus. A sign-on bonus that covers the bonus that I will lose if I go with you.
Okay, so I can negotiate it for my new job.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Quite typical if you're more attractive, which as a salesperson, you can be.
But imagine if I got offered like in incentive programs. Is there anything crucial that I need to have in the agreement in my employment?
Well, like I said, and I would, apart from knowing when it's paid out and what happens if you leave early, you need to know how you are measured, so you feel a comfort in that and some kind of transparency if you can get it. I mean, after all, it's your boss offering, and they can say that if you do good. But they're not allowed to be discriminatory.
Okay.
So if you're a woman and you're pregnant and suddenly they pull away your bonus, I mean, of course not. You have to stay mindful of that. But other than that, I will watch out so you do not have a clawback, because that means you have to pay back the bonus in certain instances.
Okay.
And in many jurisdictions, that will not even be allowed under employment protection. But in some, it can be, which means that perhaps it says that within 2 years, if you go to our competitors, you must give back your bonus. That's a clawback. So just watch out. So no clawback.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But let's say that I'm in a company where it's been going really well the past 3 years, and we can see now that it's getting worse in the company. The financials are not that good. Can my boss cancel the incentive programs?
And that's a good thing to look in the contract.
Okay.
Is it just a bonus? Typically, it's not something you can expect. Typically, they can cancel it. They will have that option. They will say that only if it's warranted, if it's irresponsible vis-a-vis the company, vis-a-vis the shareholders, may we pay the bonus. And in any case where it is not, we will not pay the bonus. So you should expect that, but you can have a look.
Okay, but you have to read through your agreement.
And I mean, if you're a salesperson getting a really low salary, then typically the bonus is more like commission that you get for your sales, and they should not be able to pull that back.
Okay.
But that's kind of quasi, like more variable kind of salary, I would say.
Okay, so this was the short term.
Yes.
Yeah. And if we're heading up to the long term, what can you tell me about that?
The long term. Well, typically longer than 1 year. Most typically 3 to 5 years.
Sounds like a long time.
Yeah. And that's the point.
Yeah.
Number one condition will be that you stick around for 3 years or 5 years. And we talked about it during the sweat equity, that there will be a vesting agreement, which means that you need to stay on and perform during that period. And that if you leave early, then the shares you will not have vested, then you will lose them. And now I'm jumping ahead a bit because I said shares. And I want to divide the LTIP into 3.
Yeah.
Equity, as in shares, the most kind of famous, typical, expected.
Yeah.
And we have equity-related security, like stock options.
Yeah.
And then we have phantom shares.
That's a new one for me.
That's a new
I never
one.
heard of it. So
Phantom shares. It is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
They're not real.
Ah.
So that's actually just a tracker. At the end of the period, you will be paid in cash if you're getting phantom shares.
Okay, so it's like an imaginary share.
Yeah, exactly. And all of these have their advantages and disadvantages. And you may wonder, when we're talking about the vesting schedule and that you need to pay the shares back, why do you get them up front?
Yes.
And the reason is that then you get to participate in the value growth of the company, and typically it will be better from a tax perspective to have them up front. And the vesting can be linear or it can be a cliff. And linear, we talked about that as well. Then if it's 3 years, every quarter you vest a portion. So if you leave after 2 years and you have a linear vesting, you will keep 2/3 if you're a good leaver. That means you're not leaving because you're getting fired, you're not leaving because you're going to a competitor. If there's a cliff vesting of 3 years, then if you leave after 2 years and, what should we say, 360 days?
Yes.
Then you have not vested anything. You'll get nothing. So a recommendation is watch out for the cliff vesting. They can be combined as well.
They can be.
Yeah, so you can have cliff vesting of 1 year, and then when you stay for 1 year, every quarter you start vesting.
Okay.
And that's more fair for you, because many things can happen. I mean, 5 years, you might want to move to another city, you might want to do something completely else. So.
Yeah, because this was my question. I mean, 5 years, it seems like a long time for making a performance in a company to get shares or equity in some sort.
But remember, you will get a salary.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a bonus. And also the payoff, if you stick around and the company grows, will typically be, like you said in the beginning, honestly, most people's chance to get rich.
That's a good one.
We're talking, it can be millions. So I mean, and many companies also, in order to, because the problem in particular with the options, the second option, stock options, is that you remember the options. We have a specific episode where we explain the options. You get an option, which is a right to buy the shares in the future to a predetermined price.
Yeah.
Well, let's say that predetermined price is 200 in 5 years. But then after 2 years, the market breaks. It's COVID. Nothing's moving. And the stock plummets. It's 50. And it's apparent that it will never come up to 200.
And what happens in that case?
It's really disincentivizing. Because then you know already too early, there's no point. You don't have any incentive to work to get that incentive program, to get that payoff. Because they're out of the money. So they can be disincentivizing.
Oh.
So many employers will try to, instead of just giving you a big incentive program 1 year, they will give you one each year to incentivize you to stick around and also kind of spread the risk. So you will always have something that's kind of in the money or equity that's growing and that you want to stick around for.
Yes, and maybe the person gets very motivated each year to perform.
Exactly. And I mean, for the shareholders, the point is that if I only get salary, I can take it and go home and sleep. But now I'm also kind of a shareholder, or even a shareholder if I get the equity. So now my interest is aligned with the shareholders to grow the company value.
Yes. And I think what I read, I mean, this is getting more common because people want to be a part of something. And I can see that where, I mean, talking on investing events or anything, they want more from the company, but they also want to give more because of passion. So we're seeing new things in the business, and I think it's fun because people are very engaging in what they're doing. And even small companies, so really good the short term. That was good explained. So I think for smaller companies, this is a very good way to keep your employees.
Indeed. And I think with the startup wave that we're all seeing, right, this is also kind of a way to attract competence that are so allured by the startup trends.
Yeah.
Because now you get, like you said, to be a shareholder, you get to participate in some way and form. And also, as a business owner, remember, with the LTIP, the long-term incentive programs, you do not have to cash out, at least not for a long time, because you will only dilute the equity instead. So it's also good for your finance, even though if phantom shares in the end, you need to cash out. But the other two options, stock options and equity, you do not need to pay like a high salary. So you don't need to have that strong liquidity in the beginning.
So this is a very good way for an incentive program. Wow, I'm so impressed by your profession, and I learned so much. And I hope if you're watching this, you're in the business world, this is very useful. I mean, all of this knowledge that we're sharing, you can use everything in your business.
And ask your employer, make sure you understand the incentive program, and don't be afraid to ask for more.
No, and then read the agreements, as we talked about. It's really important. We're so happy to share this with you. And now we're out here in the woods, in the nice nature, talking about business law. But wherever we go, we talk about business.
Indeed.
That's why we are here. Welcome back, and I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.